What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here at JGilbo11. Look at some GPP bats for tonight's slate. Full 15-game slate with Coors. I'm not particularly worried about any tremendous high ownership. I mean, Coors is probably going to gain a little bit. I think the Giants will gain a little bit more because their prices didn't really take a Coors bump. There's just a ton of high totals. You're looking at, let's see here. I mean, Cincinnati, Dodgers have a high total. Detroit, Tampa. You're looking at the game in Boston, which features a decent total. Cleveland, Minnesota, San Diego, Milwaukee, Texas, Seattle. I mean, there's a lot of good spots to go tonight. So looking at catcher here first, this is a spot where I am going to be going cheap. Yasmani Grandal's been struggling, but he gets Tim Adelman, who throws a fastball and changeup a lot. I like the fact that Adelman throws his fastball about 60% of the time. Those are good numbers against a Dodgers team that is a little bit K-happy at times. I love the Dodgers tonight in that ballpark. Grandal's not that expensive. Like I said, he's been struggling, but this is a good spot for him to get out of it. He does have that power against right-handers. Very much in play for me. If you're looking cheaper, I love Yan Gomes here. The upside's been there this year against lefties. He's shown off a decent ISO, 282, 374 WOBA against a 28-year-old lefty for Minnesota who's just been around the league, hasn't cracked the majors, so you can just kind of know what to expect. Not that good of a pitcher. Getting a spot start here. Yan Gomes is dirt cheap on both sides. There's some power. I like the projection. I like the total for him that we have. I'm definitely on board. If you're looking elsewhere, I mean, Milwaukee catchers are always intriguing against Miguel Diaz, who's struggled out of the bullpen, doesn't have a lot of stuff. And then you can look at Cameron Rupp as well against Patrick Corbin. I don't mind Philly's bats actually tonight. They should be cheap value, can help kind of fill in with you. But you look at Corbin this year, 393 WOBA to righties, fourth highest on the slate, 38% hard contact rate, 1.82 home runs per nine. So they're definitely intriguing. I'll definitely be going down that road with some cheap bats, including here later on. So I don't mind those catchers in terms of power upside. They do hit a little bit lower in the lineup outside of Grandal, but that's fine for the price. Moving to first base, this is a spot where I expect a lot of guys to kind of gravitate towards Eric Thames. I do think the ownership play will be there with him, but he's a tough fade as well, just going up against Diaz. He's certainly in play for me, though. I'm intrigued with Matt Carpenter, who's all of a sudden moved off to the leadoff spot and just has, blasted. Multi-hits in last 3 games, has a double in his last 6, a couple home runs as well in the last 10. Still not that badly priced in that ballpark there. Baltimore is very friendly for lefty power. Going up against Gausman, who's just bad against both sides of the plate this year. 341 WOBA, 35% hard contact rate. Usually Carpenter's a guy I don't target with a ton of upside, but this is actually a really good spot for him in Baltimore. Big park upgrade, so like him a lot. If you're moving elsewhere, I mean, as I said, Eric Thames is going to be there. Tommy Joseph's an intriguing GPP bat. Once again, I don't think anyone's going to be on him. You're going to get him less than 5%. He's a low ownership play. You can go that route. Damn it. Hanley Ramirez is 3,300 on DK. He's been awful of late, but Mike Fiers is just so bad against righties, allowing over 3 home runs per 9, over a 400 WOBA. So, if you're going with a high expensive like Scherzer, Severino lineup or doing something like that, Hanley 3-3 is not the worst play in the world. So I'll definitely consider him. In terms of other options, Brandon Belt's probably going to be a little bit popular. He's been struggling, but good start in Coors, or a good career in the Coors outside of last night. It wasn't too great, but ownership's probably going to be a little bit higher on him and a better matchup. So second base, this is a spot where I'm probably going to be paying down as well. There are some cheap guys that we don't usually consider with high upside, but tonight's not actually that bad. You look at Joe Panic, not a ton of power, hitting the bottom half of that lineup, but he actually doesn't have that bad of upside in Colorado tonight against Sensatella, who's going to slowly regress here, allowing a lot of hard contact, 333 WOBA to lefties. So I don't hate it. Wish he was higher in the lineup. Just around that range, it's going to be an intriguing pivot because I think Robinson Cano is going to draw a lot of the ownership tonight against Tyson Ross, who's likely not going to be due for a ton of innings. You're probably going to get him about 3-4 innings tops would be my guess. I can't see him going anything more than that. And also Ross does have some slight struggles against lefties. So Cano's too cheap in that ballpark that's red hot. I like Seattle tonight. I like their lefties a lot. Definitely in play. And then you got Eric Sogard, good spot here for him, 3,700 on DK. A little bit pricier on FanDuel. He's a guy still hitting over 300. I love the Brewer stack tonight. I'll talk about in the stacking pod. Chase Utley, extremely cheap over on FanDuel and a good spot against Adelman. So you got some cheap power there. So second base, there are some power bats. There are some upside bats that I don't mind. Dustin Pedroia is in play as well. Good numbers against Fires. Has been hitting well outside of his last night over 4, which somehow Boston's offense just went completely quiet. Chris Sale with a late night double. That was about it for them. So looking at third base tonight, it's going to be a spot where I think a lot of people are going to be, using a premium pay-up option here towards their Arenado, Josh Donaldson, Chris Bryant, all in play. Looking elsewhere, though, I love Hernan Perez. I won't use him at third base on DraftKings, though. We'll talk about him in the outfield on FanDuel. But give me some Travis Shaw here, 4,600 on DK, 3,700 on FanDuel. I like him a lot. 376 WOBA against righties this year, 236 ISO. Miller Park, friendly for lefty power. I'm on board with Diaz there. Justin Turner is a guy I always like. Yeah, I like the lefties here, but I also love Justin Turner against any handedness, especially in that ballpark. He always goes overlooked. You'll probably get him at less than 12% on both sides tonight, so very much in play. Then if you're looking kind of cheaper, Eugenio Suarez is an intriguing GPP option. Handles lefties really well. Alex Wood's been really good, but in play, give me some Jed Jerko. Yeah, he's been struggling a little bit on the cheaper side, but against Gossman, who's just awful against both sides of the plate, but even worse so against righties. 430 WOBA to right-handers, 1.79 homes per 9. I like this play. I love Jerko for a value sense. Very much in play for me. Anthony Rendon, he's a lefty masher, over 500 WOBA against lefties this year, only 3,500 on DK. Against Matz, I'll consider. Matz is a good arm. I like him, but who knows if he's really healthy or not. So I'll take a shot at Rendon there at that price tag in GPPs. Looking at shortstop, I have no issue with using Corey Seager tonight if you have the pay-up option. I'll fade Trey Turner. He just doesn't have any power against lefties. I love Francisco Lindor here. Been struggling. Going to get overlooked with Brandon Crawford right there. Minnesota's not a bad ballpark this time of year, but you look at Lindor, 366 WOBA off lefties, 240 ISO, hard contact up significantly, not badly priced. Like I said, going up against a journeyman lefty, very much in play, and I think you're going to get him at low ownership as well. And then just moving down, you have Brandon Crawford who's just going to suck up a ton of ownership on DK at 3,800. So you can get Eric Sogard cheap. You can get Elenimus Diaz, who's starting to come around a little bit more. He's a really sneaky bat with some power in that ballpark. I like him quite a bit. As I talked about, reverse splits there. Outside of that, though, Diaz is probably as cheap as I'm going to go. Troy Tulowitzki's been awful this year, but once again, he's 2,700 DK. He popped up in the optimizer for a value. I don't know if I can quite go on board with it, but if you're paying up for pitching or paying up for a high price stack, you can maybe look at him. Looking at outfield tonight, in terms of pay-ups, I think you're going to get things pretty spread out. I love Mookie Betts here in this spot. As talked about, Fires is awful against righties. Mookie Betts, 198 ISO, good spot for him in this ballpark. Giancarlo Stanton against a lefty. Sean Newcomb's not bad. Watch that first start. He's awesome. He's going to be a good guy for a while here in Atlanta. But this ballpark plays really well for both sides of the plate, mainly lefties, but Stanton just knows no limits as far as ballparks go. And then you look at Stanton, over a 500 WOBA and ISO against lefties this year. Sorry, kid. This is just a tough lineup. I love Stanton tonight. There's a lot of potential. Cody Bellinger is another high-priced option I like in the outfield. 1.94 home runs per 9 to lefties with Edelman. You look at Bellinger, he's got that 2 home run upside, 333 ISO against righties. High strikeout rate, but Edelman doesn't miss a ton of bats, so he's intriguing for me. And then you kind of start to work your way down. Aaron Altair is a guy I like a lot. 362 WOBA or 362 ISO against lefties, 394 WOBA. Way too cheap on both sides. Corbin allowed a 393 WOBA to righties. So I'm on board there. You can use guys like Thames and Belt in the outfield if you want. So you have that luxury. And you kind of work your way down. Steven Piscotty, been a boomer bust guy this year, but with Gossman, I'm okay with targeting him. He's got some decent numbers against righties this year, so very much in play. Hernan Perez, I want to talk about him on FanDuel where, he's only 3,100. I like the potential for him in this matchup here. He's 3,200, 345 WOBA off righties this year, 242 ISO. Very nice price. He fits that Brewer stack pretty well if you need a cheap guy. So definitely in play. Jay Bruce, Michael Conforto, if he's in the lineup against Scherzer, over on FanDuel, very cheaply priced. Scherzer does allow some home runs to lefties. You can take some shots. Conforto and Bruce, have about 5 home runs, I believe, combined against him. Conforto has his number. So, could I see one of these starts where he strikes out 10, gives up maybe 2 solo shots or 3 to 4 earned runs? I could. I definitely could see that happening. So if you want to roll the dice, I'm okay with it there. So very much in play. As far as other guys go, I like Andrew McCutchen even against the righty here of Eddie Butler. Eddie Butler's just a bad arm, so very much in play for there. Not going to get a lot of ownership on him. Jose Bautista, you can play the BVP card against Jose Quintana. I don't hate the move there, but he's been better off against righties than he has against lefties. There are cheap guys in Coors, Hunter Pence, Denard Span. You can get that exposure that way. But I'm actually going to be kind of mainly looking away from Coors. Carlos Gonzalez has decent numbers against Samardzija, but he's been awful late. Is cheap on DraftKings, so we have options in Coors, but for the most part, I like those other names outside of everywhere else. Odubel Herrera, intriguing, 3,400 NDK, cooling off a little bit from last time, but I would consider using him at that price. So that's gonna wrap things up. You can head over to DaveFantasyCafe.com, check out our great tools and content.